You know, Klaus Schwab, in his book, The Great Reset, he said something to the effect of people will own nothing and be happy. Well, he's wrong. And here's why. In a monarchy, the king and queen own all the land, and they allow the peasants to inhabit the land in exchange for the peasants paying a tax to the king and queen. If the peasant fails to pay the tax to the king and queen, the peasant is removed, jailed, or murdered. And then the property is given to someone else to then pay a tax to the king and queen so they can continue to live as king and queen. Well, in America, when you buy a piece of property, you take title as a tenant in common, joint tenant, tenant in severability, or tenant by the entireties. What is that one consistent word? Tenant. Well, if you're just a tenant, then what are you actually buying? Glad you asked. You're buying the right of peaceful enjoyment, unless decided otherwise through eminent domain, squatters, or some other contrived concept to steal your property. Well, if you're just the tenant, who do you pay your rent to? Well, you pay it to the county, taxes, once a year. And if you fail to pay your rent, a tax certificate is issued, and someone will bid on that tax certificate based on the interest rate they're willing to receive in return for their money. And they'll hold it for a minimum of 2 years, and a maximum of 7 years of holding it. They'll apply for a tax deed sale, and someone will go to the auction and they'll buy the property through tax deed and file a suit for quiet title action, or just hold it for 4 years. Well, if the county is the recipient of the rent, then, they must own the property, which is why county tax liens supersede all other liens of the land, including the Internal Rip-Off Service. Internal Revenue Service. I'm sorry, I get confused. Anyway, back on track. So, if the county is the owner of the property that you have a tenancy right of peaceful enjoyment to, well, then that explains why you need a permit or permission to build on the property. Makes sense. Would you allow someone to build on something that's yours without you approving what it is that they're doing to your property? Of course not. So, if the county owns the property, well, then who controls the county? Well, the county is a corporation, and the county has to incorporate. And who approves the incorporation of the county? Well, it's the state. The state approves the corporation of the county so that the county can exist as a ruling authority over a portion of land. Well, if the state controls the existence of the county, then who controls the state? Well, in my opinion, you're kidding yourself if you think the federal government couldn't declare martial law anytime they want. All they need to do is have a reason. So, if the federal government controls the state and the state controls the county, of which you have a tenancy right to a piece of property that's owned by the county, well, then who runs the federal government? Well, it's a bunch of people in Washington, D.C. What does the D.C. stand for? District of Corruption? Oh, wait a minute. I get so confused. District of Columbia. That's what it is. So, District of Columbia, as in Cuban cigars? Or Columbia Pictures? Oh, no, wait a minute. Columbia Records. They had that bottleneck all those years with RCA? Oh, no, wait. British Columbia. So it's true the sun never sets on the assets of Britannia. Well, if you got that punchline to this long-winded joke, then here's another thing. Do you own your car? I dare you to park it on the street without a valid registration. You'll be buying it back from the impound yard sooner than you can blink. Okay? So I just established that you don't own your car. Well, do you own the money that you earn? No, you don't. Because you have to pay rent for the right to use that money. And the rent is taken out of your check before you get it. And they allow you that little circus at the end of the year where you can try to prove that they have to give the stolen money back, which never really works out in your favor, of course. And when you go to spend that money, your ability to spend that money requires a tax. So you pay a rent again for the right to use the money. And if you put it in an investment account and you happen to make a little money on that money, well, then you're taxed a rent on that too. So I've established that you don't own your house, you don't own your car, you don't own your money that you earned with your blood, sweat, tears, time away from your family, setting aside your dreams, your hopes, your wishes. No. So I've established you don't own your money. Well, do you own the things you buy with that money? No, you do not. Because that stuff could be taken away from you at any time. So, the reason I say Klaus Schwab is wrong is because, yeah, you won't own anything, but will you be happy?